name is MK Kopp, and welcome to Page to Screen, where we explore the art and craft of screenwriting and independent filmmaking. Tonight, we're talking with screenwriter and producer, Alvaro Rodriguez.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure.
So let's get specific about some of your work.
Okay.
We have some fun posters around us. I have a very intimidating Robert De Niro staring right at me. Don't mess up, girl. So let's first talk about Machete, which I love, by the way. What was writing that like? You know, how did you get in that? What was it like working with family?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know, Machete, back in, I'm trying to remember, it was like 95. Robert Rodriguez is my first cousin. Our dads are brothers. I had started working with him right after El Mariachi, started writing with him. And he was making Desperado and was casting that movie and was looking for a guy to play like the knife-throwing bad guy, and in walks Danny Trejo. And Robert took one look at him and said, like, you're the guy. You know, here's some knives, go practice. Yeah. And as he was kind of making the movie with him, you know, Danny is an amazing human being. And he was like, you know, it would be really cool one day to make a movie where you're not the bad guy, you're the hero. Mm-hmm. And so that was sort of like the seed of Machete. And then when he did Spy Kids, Machete was written in as like the uncle to the kids, like Uncle Machete. It was a very kind of different character, a much more genial character than what he became in the later movies. You know, over time, you know, it never was kind of becoming realized. And, you know, Robert always tells the story that, you know, he would get these calls from Danny, like, when are we going to do Machete? It's like, yeah, well, you know, working on it. And then, you know, one day, you know, Robert answered the phone and it was Danny, and he's like, why aren't you taking my calls? You know, and it's like, oh, look, man, I'm really kind of busy right now. Why don't you text me? He's like, Machete don't text. And so then in the, gosh, I don't remember what year it was that they did Planet Terror and Death Proof as this double feature grindhouse for Dimension Films and Weinstein Miramax Company. And so they had hit upon this idea, you know, Robert was going to do Planet Terror, Quentin Tarantino was doing Death Proof, and they were going to do like fake trailers for movies to make it seem like a, you know, 1970s drive-in experience, a double feature with trailers in between. And so it's like, hey, we're going to do Machete as a fake trailer. And then we'll, you know, then we'll never have to make the movie.
Right.
But there were all these, at the time, you know, when they were in production with Planet Terror and Death Proof, there was this idea of like, wow, this could be like a thing. We could like revamp the whole like double feature thing. So the other trailers were, Edgar Wright had a trailer called Don't. Eli Roth had a trailer for Thanksgiving, which became a movie.
Yeah.
And Rob Zombie had a trailer called Werewolf Women of the SS with Nicolas Cage. And so there was this idea that like, okay, we can do these as double features. It'd be like Machete and Don't or whatever, or Werewolf. I think it was going to be Machete and Werewolf Women of the SS. And then the movie came out, and it kind of tanked, didn't do well, Grindhouse. So I was like, well, there goes that idea.
Sure.
But then the trailer kind of got a second life online on YouTube, and it was getting all these views, and people were saying, "Where's this movie?" You know, and so it's like, okay, you know, we'll do it. We'll do it for like straight to video, low budget kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So I started working on it. Started working on the script. Actually, when they were shooting the fake trailer, I wrote some of the scenes for that when I was on set. And it's like, we need to write some scenes for Cheech Marin and Danny. So I wrote some of those things. And so it was like I was already kind of into it, and it kind of started small. But then as it, I don't know, there was some kind of a weird, you know, viral thing that was happening where it's like, you know, Robert called me and he's like, you know, I think we got Don Johnson to be in the movie. I was like, oh, that's great, love Don Johnson, and we're going to get Lindsay Lohan. I was like, oh my God! I mean, that's the biggest coup of all, because you know, she's in the news all the time.
Yes,
it's going to bring so much attention to the movie.
Yes.
And then one day it was the call. It's like, you know, Robert De Niro wants to be in the movie. I was like, as what? And he's like, he wants to play the senator, you know? And I was like, that's not even a character. This is a guy who gets shot. He's like, I know. But and De Niro, you know, doesn't want people to say he just did it for money. So he's like, he wants us to build character out of it. Okay. So we started kind of like working on different ideas and sending them to Robert De Niro. Robert sending him these ideas and stuff we were coming up with.
So you were writing it for him?
Writing it for him now.
Cool, very cool.
And he was, you know, send back emails like, that's good, keep coming with more things. And then finally, when we kind of proposed the ending of that character for the movie, you know, he's like, I'm in. And so, it was also
Wow.
an amazing thing. And I always think back to the moment where they had done like the first rough cut of the movie. And I was with my cousin Rebecca, who was like editing parts of that or helping edit parts of that. She's now also a director in her own right. Has done a lot of great TV and things. And the first Robert De Niro scene coming up. But this was such a rough cut. I was like, oh my God, this movie is so bad. It's like it's not working. None of these things are landing. And it's like, it's just a rough cut. It hasn't really been edited or anything. But then the De Niro scene starts, and I was like, stop it. And she's like, what's wrong? I said, that's Robert De Niro. And he's saying lines that I wrote.
Oh my
And it was like, and so.
You're just like, I need a moment. Everybody, this is actually happening right now.
This is real. And it's like,
I'm so glad you took that moment. Because that's
I just like,
incredible.
I had to stop. I was like, just don't, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Because, it's something to be on set, and that was an amazing experience too, and just getting to, visit with him on set and whatever. But actually seeing it and knowing that this was going to come out and it was like going to be a movie, and
Very
someone
real.
who was, someone who I think is one of the greatest actors that we've ever had.
Yes.
Loved so many of his movies, as I was getting, my teenage years and getting to see things like Taxi Driver for the first time and Godfather Part 2 and all of these things, and just like, oh my God, this is, a real pinch me kind of moment.
Yeah.
And then, so Machete got made and it came out and it did pretty well, and it was a great experience.
That's so cool.
Thank you.
And so you had Robert there, and then also another cousin, Rebecca.
We have there's a good handful of talented Rodriguezes out there.
I love it. Kind of goes back to what you're saying about growing up. You're just like, I'm here with my family.
I'm here with my family.
This is what's important. This is what matters.
It is. I mean, I always tell the story about, Robert grew up in San Antonio. I grew up a few hours south on the border. But the first time I remember spending any time with him, I was 10 years old. And we were at my grandmother's house in Rio Grande City, Texas, which is closer to me than it is to San Antonio. And but Robert and his family were there. Robert was probably like 12 at the time, maybe 13. And we were all standing in the back of my grandfather's pickup truck. And Robert was telling me about this movie that had just come out and how the director did this and how they did this effect and this fight scene. And I was like, who the hell are you and where have you been all my life? And the movie was John Carpenter's Escape from New York, which he had not seen because it was rated R, but he had read all these things about it. He was like so excited about it. And his oldest sister, Angela, my cousin Angela, wanted to be an actress. And I was writing also, I'm in 5th grade and I'm writing my first, I was writing like little, again, skits or parodies of TV shows. And so it's like, okay, I'll write the script, Angela can star in them, Robert will direct them. And then we actually got to do that when we did this kids movie called Shorts. And
do you ever think that we will see Machete kills again in space?
God, I hope not.
Fair. Just wanted to ask.
I don't even know. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen with that. I wasn't really involved at all with Machete Kills, but I've gotten to work with Danny over the years, and like any opportunity to. And Danny was also voiced in Seis Manos, and we worked on even before Machete. He was in Dusk Till Dawn 3, which I had written, this kind of spaghetti western prequel to Dusk Till Dawn, and then he was also in the Dusk Till Dawn series, and he's just he's a great person to work with, and it would be great to find something Machete-esque to do with Danny, because he's one of the good guys.
Yeah. Let's talk about From Dusk Till Dawn. So, tell me your experience with that, and that was your first script deal, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. What was that like in writing for television? I mean...
Oh, well, the movie started first back in the late 90s when that came about.
He's blind! What the Sam Hill was that?
Highwayman, no doubt.
Get out! I'm being robbed!
Hill too, most likely.
But then the TV series, a few years ago, Robert had basically helped create and created a new network called El Rey Network, and it was intended to have like a lot of sort of Latin themed content and whatever, and so they were looking for original programming that they could do, and they were like, we can do Dusk Till Dawn as a TV series. I got really excited about, being a part of that, and yeah, it was amazing. They did 3 seasons of the show. The first 2 were shot in Austin, which was amazing, and then went to Albuquerque. I was a writer for the first couple of seasons, and again, it was like an amazing experience. It was like my first TV thing, and also I think, even though Robert had, forged his way into the industry, and I tried to, follow in that, there was still kind of this block in my mind of thinking like, well, I don't live in Hollywood, so I'll never be able to write on a TV show. And then this thing happened, and I was like, oh, I'm suddenly like writing and working in LA in 2013, and it was great. I had great experience. I worked with some great directors, Dwight Little, who we then later did Last Rampage with, Eduardo Sanchez, who directed the Blair Witch Project, directed another, I guess 2 of the other episodes I'd written. And so, yeah, getting to work with a great cast, it was a really great learning experience, and something I'm, really grateful for. Yeah,
so all of a sudden you were doing the Hollywood TV thing.
Doing the Hollywood TV thing, but kind of back and forth between Texas and LA, for a period of time. And then I kind of, took the leap in the beginning of 2017 and moved back to LA or moved to LA for the first time, really, and tried to get back in. I mean, that's the thing I think. Hollywood, like a lot of other things, but it seems like special in its own way to that. It's like you're always breaking in, and especially, especially if you're doing different kinds of things. Like, even though I was the guy that wrote Machete, and then got staffed on Chicago Fire, and it's like, how are these things the same thing? Or then doing an animated series, or then getting on American Rust, or whatever. There's like, so there's always this thing of like reinventing yourself or reintroducing yourself, that you kind of have. It's part of the game, I guess, in a way.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about Chicago Fire.
Sure.
So you were staffed on that, and then you are also a story editor. Is that correct? Yeah. Okay, so what was it like working on a network show, working on something like Chicago Fire? That's just a machine that's moving and grooving.
It's absolutely a machine. Yeah. And my overused line is that I was on Chicago Fire for a hot minute, and then I got Chicago fired. It was amazing. It was amazing in a lot of ways. It was difficult in a lot of ways, but I always, it's a different kind of beast, and I don't think I was ideally suited at the time for that kind of a thing. Yeah. It was hard to kind of find my place, in that thing.
Sure.
And not through anybody's fault but my own, I guess, but also, it was a great experience of like learning how like some things are different. If you writing on Dusk Till Dawn and then going a few years later to Chicago Fire was a completely different experience.
Yeah.
And just of the sort of hierarchy, the dynamics of things, how story got broken and stuff like that. I also came in on season 6, so it's like trying to find your place, in that continuum. I didn't do so great.
Yeah.
But when I got let go, I was able to go back to, a project I'd been working on before, which was Seis Manos. So we partnered with Viz Media, which are the largest distributors of anime and manga in the US, and they wanted Seis Manos to be like their first original thing. And with Viz, we went to Netflix and sold the show in December and started writing in January.
Incredible. And what was it, let's jump to Seis Manos now, with writing for animation? What was that like? Was it freeing? Was it just different? Like,
there was all of those things, because I had written an animated feature before. It never got made. Seis Manos was also just kind of like a right place at the right time opportunity. It felt like, this is kind of a new it was kind of a new thing. Sure, it's animated and stuff, but it just in terms of the tone and the subject matter and the styles of animation and all of this stuff, it felt like this is kind of a, I don't know, flagship, but certainly kind of like a new thing.
Because yesterday you called it Mexicanime.
Mexicanime,
I love it.
Our word for it, and yeah, it was an amazing experience. And
then you worked with Netflix again, right, for the Florida Man?
Yeah, so yeah. I was hired as a writer and producer on Florida Man. It was a great experience because it was also kind of like during that COVID time when production wasn't happening, but we were all still laboring under the delusion that we could be writing stuff and maybe one day we'd actually get to shoot it.
Right.
And it was a Zoom room too, so that was like also kind of its own challenge. But it was amazing. I mean, it was like great characters, great story, very much kind of an Elmore Leonard vibe to it, like a Get Shorty or a Jackie Brown, and it was just a fun world to play in.
I mean, what is it like, you know, in a writer's room? I mean, especially I'm sure with the Zoom writer's room would be wild, but that versus writing a feature script, even if you have a partner on the feature script, you know, like what's the difference with that? What's it like?
Technically I was a showrunner on Seis Manos, but it was just me and one other writer, my friend Daniel Dominguez, who now works with Powerhouse and started a new company called Line Mileage that I'm doing a feature for. And so it was just me and Daniel, and that was kind of like, you know, a kind of a writer's room, but it was more, I don't want to say intimate, because people would come into the office and we would be like screaming at each other and they're like, "Are you guys okay?" I was like, "Yeah, we're working."
Yeah.
And this is the way this goes.
This is how we do it.
But yeah, I mean, the writer's room for American Rust is very different from the writer's room for Chicago Fire. It was very different from Florida Man. It was very different from Dusk Till Dawn. You know, and each one of those things was kind of a learning curve. You know, I would say that that having the experience, my first TV writing room being Dusk Till Dawn, was incredible, simply because the showrunner of that show, Carlos Cotto, who had come from shows like 24 and Alias and things like that, did a Netflix series called Nikita. He's an amazing teacher. He was like, I was learning so much every day in that room, and I also, it was like the first sort of lesson in realizing like there are different types of showrunners and there are different roles to play. So sure, there's like staff writer, story editor, executive story editor, you know, co-producer, producer, supervising producer, co-EP, executive producer, all of those kinds of titles. But everyone sort of has a different role to play that may not even be what's the assigned title, you know. And when you're the coach of this team, you don't need a team full of quarterbacks. You don't need a team full of, you know, linebackers. You need a blend, right? Everyone has a different skill set that they bring to the table, and that was a huge lesson for me in recognizing that, like, oh, we all have our own strengths, and our weaknesses are compensated by other people in the room.
Cool.
And this is the dynamic. That's why I say it's the most collaborative thing that there is.
Yeah, that's amazing. I know we have some fans of American Rust in the room, and just would love to know how you got involved with that show. Because you were a writer-producer, right?
I was a writer-producer. So, I mean, the thing about American Rust was that it's based on a novel, and I had actually read the novel years ago when it was published. And I think I even had like the audiobook, and I had listened to the audiobook. So I had written an original pilot called White Boy, which has certain affinities with American Rust. And my manager, Chris Mills at Authentic, was like Johnny on the spot when that opportunity came up. I got submitted right away, and I got an interview pretty quickly too. And Chris had, you know, called me and said, "Can you do an interview tomorrow, a FaceTime interview with the showrunners?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." Yeah. I had reread like 50 pages of the book. So that night I read the other 300 and whatever pages. And so the next day I was in that world.
Cool.
You know, I was in the world of Buell, fictional town in Western Pennsylvania. You know, as someone who's done, like you said, all these sorts of different things, for me, it was like, oh, this is where I belong. I want to do adult drama. I want to do serious stories where, you know, it's fun to blow things up. It's fun to have, you know, guys rappel down the sides of hospitals using someone else's intestines.
So fun.
But it's
fun.
Also like really rewarding to do a serious adult drama with incredible actors like Jeff Daniels and Maura Tierney and Bill Camp, and we had an amazing cast. And and great directors, working with John Dahl, who, you know, I think an amazing film director, and has done a lot of television from like House of Cards and so many other things. To get to have that, you know, I guess in a way it almost felt like a grown-up experience. You know, it's like I'm working with the adults now. I'm working with people who I admire. I'm working with like really amazing people. Yeah. And then, you know, so writing for that show was an incredible experience because there were so many talented people. It was a really well put together group of people, you know, that all had different sort of skill sets and talents. I really felt at home there, like I had things to contribute. I had stuff to do, and it was all so, you know, rewarding. And then getting to be on set for several months. I think I was 3 months on the first season in Pittsburgh. You know, and again, it's like having to solve problems on set, having to, you know, work with actors, work with the directors.
So yesterday you said the term genre agnostic, which I think, you know, we've kind of learned that you're like, I'm jumping around trying out all these different things. And you mentioned this, the children's movie that you wrote with Robert, is that correct? Yeah, shorts. How did that come about?
Gosh, I'm trying to remember. I mean, I think, you know, Robert had by that time done Spy Kids, and probably Spy Kids 2 and 3. Yep. He'd done Shark Boy, Adventures of Shark Boy and Lava Girl.
Yes, this is my demo, so.
But it was like this idea that these kids find a wishing rock and then get to like have superpowers and all this other stuff. It's really kind of like a, you know, a wish fulfillment kid movie, you know.
This is my neighborhood, Black Falls community. Some of my neighbors are weird, but like everything else in Black Falls, about to get a little weirder.
It was a lot of fun, and then like a ridiculous cast, like John Cryer, William H. Macy, Leslie Mann, James Spader, and it's like, you know, it was incredible too, and everybody was having fun, and it, you know, it was again a really great experience to work on that script and be on set a little bit, and you know.
Did you enjoy writing like, for children, like that sort of?
Yeah, I mean, because it was fun, because it was writing for children, but it was like, I don't know, I felt like there was a lot of things in there for the grown-ups too.
So the Last Rampage over here, that's based off of a book, correct? That's a feature. And yeah, how did you get involved with that?
I got involved in that because of Dusk Till Dawn series. So my first episode of TV was directed by a guy named Dwight H. Little. And we had such a good time working on Dusk Till Dawn with the actor Robert Patrick. And Last Rampage had been like a passion project for Dwight for like 20 years. He had the rights to the book for a long time. It's based on a true story. And so he asked me, you know, when we were doing Dusk, he's like, you know, do you want to work on this? You know, there was an existing script already, but it wasn't working. And he's like, you want to work on this? And so I said, yeah, I'll work on it. I love working with you. I love working with, you know, these actors. And so I came on board that.
I won't hesitate to paint these walls the color God gave me.
Yeah, Cooper. Do what now?
What is it? What happened?
Gary Tyson just busted out of prison.
And it was also like a challenging writing process. But again, such a valuable one in learning how to, you know, kind of keep at it and break through things.
Yeah.
So it was a great experience in the writing of it. It was a great experience in the filming of it. You know, an amazing cast with Robert, Heather, Bruce Davison, Alex McNichol, John Hurd. Just you know, it was an amazing experience.
Yeah.
So I really learned a lot from that process.
Yeah, that's so great. And it's great that you can take things from different projects.
Yeah.
So with action movies and thrillers, what do you think audiences or producers are looking for right now?
I guess in a way, it's always been a thing, like these are dependable things, right? That's why there was Taken, and then there's like 1,000 Taken-esque kinds of stories, right? You know, just in terms of producibility, you know, over the last probably 2 decades, right? It's like we can go shoot a movie in Bulgaria. We can get Liam Neeson. We can get Bruce Willis. We can get Antonio Banderas. We can get, you know, whatever the thing is. And there's a certain price point, and there's a certain guaranteed return, and all of that kind of stuff. And then, you know, there are just those things that kind of come out of nowhere, and again, also kind of like create franchises, like the Fast and the Furious. You know, again, which is fueled by smart writing, amazing sequences, set pieces, characters we kind of care about.
Yeah.
And
it's about family.
It is about family.
It is about family, that whole franchise.
And so, yeah, I think that those things, again, are like evergreen. So, you know, again, not to be a broken record, but I think that the ones that are really good have some elemental core to them. It's just spectacle if it's not rooted in some kind of thing.
Yeah.
As far as what people want, you know, what producers are looking for, again, like, I wish I knew. It's like the thing when people say, like, how did you get your start? And I'm like, I could tell you, but it doesn't really matter anymore.
Right.
Because the world changes. The world changes all the time.
Yeah.
And there's always the sort of common wisdom of like, oh, they're doing like a bunch of vampire movies, so I'm going to write a vampire movie. By the time you write your vampire movie, vampires are out.
Yeah.
Right? It's not about that anymore.
Right.
Sure, if you have an original idea, but it's also like, literally it can be a thing that's been done to death. So if you don't have a unique twist on things, it's hard to kind of stand out. It's hard to kind of get noticed.
Yeah.
So that's why it's like, write what you like.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Because you're going to be sitting in that world, you know, trying to figure out your take on it. Yeah.
That's write what you like, and know that the market is constantly changing. You know, it will that pendulum will swing your way at one time or another. So if you've written something that you believe in and that you're really engaged in, and you know, it's like they say when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. I always say, you know, when the writer is ready, the agent will appear. It's also like, you know, when the time is ready, you know, you'll sell that script.
Yeah.
Or you'll get a job because of that script.
Right. Yeah. We are going to be back with more from Alvaro Rodriguez in the next episode of Page to Screen. In the meantime, go check out our other interviews at our YouTube channel and connect with us on Facebook or Instagram. Until then, keep on writing and keep on learning.